The last thing Declan Marsh recorded before the signal died was not a scream. It was silence. A silence so deliberate, so architecturally precise, that the audio engineer who later analyzed the file said the ambient noise had not faded. It had been removed. Declan had been hiking the Ozette Triangle in the Olympic Peninsula for 11 years. Not casually, professionally. He'd written 2 guides for the Washington Trails Association, had led over 40 paid groups through the coastal loop, had memorized the tidal schedules well enough to navigate the flat rock beaches without ever checking a watch. He knew where the cedar routes crossed the boardwalk at mile marker 3. He knew which specific creek crossing near Sandpoint ran ankle-deep in October and thigh-deep in March. He was not the kind of man who disappeared. He disappeared on September 14, 2019. Before that, there were the others. Isolde Pfeiffer was a structural geologist from Freiburg, Germany, on a sabbatical year at the University of Washington. She was 38 years old, spoke 4 languages, and had completed solo traversals of the Haute Route and the GR20 in Corsica. She arrived at the Ozette Ranger Station trailhead on August 29, 2019, signed her name in the logbook at 6:47 in the morning, and told the volunteer at the desk that she expected to finish the loop in a single long day, roughly 9 hours at her pace, back well before dark. Her emergency contact was her colleague Dr. Peter Van Zandt at the UW Earth Sciences building on 15th Avenue Northeast. He did not hear from her again. The third was a man named Fortunato Krebs, 45, a former park ranger himself, who had worked 12 seasons in Olympic National Park before taking a position with a land trust in Bellingham. He knew that coastline the way Declan knew the trail, by smell, by texture, by the particular sound the wind made when it came off the Pacific and hit the spruce canopy at a certain angle. He had walked the Ozette Triangle in every season, in rain so heavy it felt structural, in fog so dense the horizon ceased to exist. He left the trailhead on September 2, 2019. He was not recovered. What follows is drawn from 3 sources. Declan's audio recordings, recovered intact from a waterproof case found near the Cape Alava Junction on September 19th. The handwritten journal Isolde Pfeiffer kept in a green Leuchtturm notebook, 17 pages of which were later found tucked inside a split cedar log approximately 2 miles south of the Seafield Creek crossing. And the testimony of a couple, Bridget Tholk and her partner Amos Serrett, who encountered Fortunato Krebs on the trail approximately 90 minutes before he was last seen. Bridget was a nurse from Olympia. Amos had worked as a backcountry EMT in the Cascades for 6 years. These were not impressionable people. Bridget Tholke's statement to the Park Service, filed September 4, 2019, describes the encounter this way. He was standing at the edge of the boardwalk, facing the tree line, not moving. We said hello. He turned, and he smiled, and he said something I couldn't quite hear over the wind. We kept walking. About 100 yards later, Amos said, "Did you notice his breathing?" I said I hadn't. Amos said he couldn't hear it at all. She added a sentence that the investigating ranger circled in his notes. He was very still. Not resting still. Still like something that has just learned how to be still. Amos Serrett's statement was shorter. He wrote, "The smell was wrong. Like someone had lit a match and then thought better of it. Sulfur, but colder." Declan Marsh's audio recordings begin normally. He used a Zoom H5 portable recorder, which he habitually carried for ambient sound documentation. He had been developing a sound map of the peninsula for a project he never described publicly. The files were organized by timestamp and labeled with his own notation system. OZT for Ozette Triangle, followed by the mile marker, followed by the time. The recordings are mundane for the first several hours. Wind, surf, his own footsteps on the boardwalk, which produce a distinct hollow rhythm he had documented before and annotated as characteristic resonance, old-growth cedar, avoid in rain. The first anomaly appears at OZT-4.2-1334. Mile marker 4.2 is approximately halfway along the coastal section, where the trail runs close enough to the ocean that surf spray occasionally reaches the boardwalk. At 1:34 in the afternoon, Declan's footsteps on the recording stop. He has paused, as he often did, to capture ambient sound. There is wind, there is surf, there is the distant call of what sounds like a varied thrush. And then, beneath all of it, there is a second set of footsteps. They are not on the boardwalk. They are lateral to it, moving through the vegetation to the east of the trail. The rhythm is approximately correct for a human walking at a moderate pace, but the spacing is wrong in a way that requires multiple listenings to identify. The interval between each step is identical to a degree that human walking does not produce. Not similar. Identical. The audio engineer who analyzed the file ran a frequency analysis and confirmed it. Each footfall lands at an interval of exactly 0.73 seconds, with a variance of less than 4 milliseconds across 27 consecutive steps. Declan does not comment on the recording. His own footsteps resume after 40 seconds. Isolde Pfeiffer's journal is written in German, with occasional English phrases. Her handwriting is small and consistent for the first 14 pages. On page 15, the handwriting changes. Not dramatically, not illegibly, but in the way handwriting changes when the hand is cold, or when the writer is writing faster than usual, or when the writer's attention is elsewhere. She describes stopping for lunch near a beach access point she identifies as north of the third campsite. She describes the weather accurately. Partial cloud cover, westerly wind, cool but not cold. She describes eating half a bar of Ritter Sport marzipan chocolate, which she notes she has been rationing since Munich. Then she writes, "Something came to the edge of the tree line and watched me eat." She does not describe it further on that page. On the next page, which appears to have been written later, the ink is different. The indentation of the pen is lighter, suggesting less pressure, suggesting something has changed. She writes, "It was not looking at me. It was oriented toward me. There is a difference. Eyes require a face." This had something like orientation. She writes, in English, underlined, "It already knew how I hold a sandwich." She does not explain what she means. The second anomaly in Declan's recordings appears at OZT-6.1-1547. By 3:47 in the afternoon, he is near Sandpoint, where the beach opens up and the horizon becomes visible. His commentary on this section of recording is expansive. He mentions the cloud formations, the temperature drop, the change in bird activity that he associates with weather coming in off the Pacific. He is clearly comfortable. He is clearly experienced. His voice has the specific ease of someone who has narrated these observations many times before. Then he stops. "That's interesting," he says quietly. He does not say what is interesting. The recording continues for 9 minutes and 40 seconds. During that time, there are no footsteps, his or otherwise. There is surf. There is wind. There is a sound that recurs 7 times across those 9 minutes and 40 seconds, always at the same volume, always from the same apparent direction, which the spatial audio of the H5 places consistently at approximately 30 degrees to the east-northeast of the microphone. The sound is difficult to describe technically. The audio engineer's report uses the phrase, percussive but wet, reminiscent of impact on organic material, duration approximately 0.2 seconds. It has a rhythm, but the rhythm is not regular. It is irregular in the specific way that suggests not randomness but pattern, like Morse code to someone who does not know Morse code, or like a word in a language the listener has never heard but can somehow feel the grammar of. The recording ends mid-breath. Fortunato Krebs did not carry a journal or a recorder. What he carried was a topographic map annotated over 12 years, a Sunto compass from his first ranger season, a species notebook, and a photograph of his daughter Marin, 7 years old, who lived with her mother in Bellingham. The map, the compass, and the notebook were never found. The photograph was recovered on September 6th, floating in a tide pool 60 meters from the high tide line, near the southern end of the coastal section. It was undamaged. It was face up. The Park Service search involved 42 personnel over 11 days, 3 canine units, aerial survey, and Coast Guard coordination. They found the notebook pages. They found the audio recorder. They found the photograph. They found no evidence of injury, no evidence of entering the water, No trail exit in any direction that the search teams could follow. They found, near the junction of the Cape Alava Trail and the coastal route, which is, specifically, the midpoint of the triangle where all three hikers would have passed within hours of each other, across the span of several days. A section of boardwalk where the wood had been compressed in a pattern that the ranger who discovered it described as palm prints. But the spacing isn't right, and there are too many of them, and they face inward, toward each other, like something was crouching here for a long time. The ranger who filed that report was a 26-year veteran named Harlan Surrote, who had conducted hundreds of searches in Olympic National Park, and who had, in his own words, seen what dehydration and panic do to people, seen what falls do, seen what the ocean does. He added a note at the bottom of his incident report that is not part of the official summary. It reads, "The prints are too close together. Whatever made them wasn't shifting weight between them, it was holding a position. It was watching the junction." In the audio engineering report commissioned by Declan Marsh's family, the analyst, a sound designer named Quirina Holt, included a supplementary note that was not requested. She wrote that she had reviewed the gap between the first anomaly at mile marker 4.2 and the end of the final recording at mile marker 6.1, 7 times in full. In her 7th review, she had noticed something she had not noticed before. In every section of recording where Declan Marsh is walking and narrating, there is a faint ambient signature, the specific frequency wash of his presence, his breathing, the micro-vibrations of his body, the sound his clothing makes. In the 9 minutes and 40 seconds of the final stationary section, that signature is present twice. 2 bodies worth of ambient presence, layered, nearly but not perfectly synchronized, as though something had learned to replicate the specific acoustic shadow a human body casts in space. Quirina Holt wrote, "I have spent 8 years distinguishing signal from artifact. What I am hearing in this section of the recording is not artifact. I cannot explain what it is. I want to be clear that I am not making a claim about what happened. I am making a claim about what is in the audio. There are 2 of him. For 9 minutes and 40 seconds, there are 2 of him. And then one of them stops." She noted that the signature which stops is the original. The one that continues for the remaining 11 seconds before the file ends is slightly different, cooler in the low-frequency register, marginally slower in its rhythmic breathing pattern. Not wrong enough to notice on a single listen. Wrong enough, on the 7th listen, to make her step away from her workstation and stand outside in the parking lot of her studio in Portland, Oregon, for a long time before she could return to write the report. Isolde Pfeiffer's journal ends in the middle of a sentence on page 17. The last complete sentence is, "It does not want to frighten me, I think. That is the worst part." The incomplete sentence reads, "It is standing exactly where I would stand if I were what?" The word is not finished. The word that would follow, grammatically, is watching, or waiting. The Ozette Triangle is still open to the public. The Park Service logs approximately 8,000 hikers through the loop each year. The boardwalk at the Cape Alava Junction was replaced in the spring of 2021 with new pressure-treated lumber. The compressed section was not photographed before replacement, a decision the park administration attributed to a documentation oversight during a staff transition period. The Suunto compass that Fortunato Krebs had carried for 12 years, the one that was logged as missing from his vehicle inventory, was found 14 months after his disappearance, in February 2021, inside the ranger station at the Ozette trailhead. It was on the desk. It was not there when the station closed the previous evening. The ranger who found it, whose name appears in the incident log as T. Ambrose, noted that the compass was pointing north, as compasses do, except that T. Ambrose was stationed in a building with significant steel framing that reliably deflected magnetic north by approximately 15 degrees east. The compass was pointing at the door. No one had entered after closing. The logbook confirmed it. The security camera at the door had recorded the exterior through the night, and the footage was reviewed, and it showed the tree line, and the parking lot, and the sky going dark and then light again, and nothing else. Except that at 3:17 in the morning, the motion-activated light above the door turned on, and stayed on for 4 minutes and 12 seconds, and then turned off. The camera did not capture what triggered it. T. Ambrose submitted a report. The report was filed. It was filed in the same archive binder as Harlan Surratt's report, and Karina Holt's audio analysis, and the witness statements from Bridget Tholke and Amos Surratt, and the recovered pages from Isolde Pfeiffer's journal. The binder has a label on its spine that reads, OZET 2019, Open. The open designation means the cases are unsolved. It has meant that for 6 years. The OZET triangle is 9.4 miles. Most people complete it in 4 to 5 hours. The trailhead registration log still has a line for emergency contacts, and a volunteer usually sits at the desk in summer to collect the forms and make conversation and remind people about title schedules. The volunteers are instructed not to mention the 2019 cases unless directly asked. Most of them have not read the binder. One of them has. She has worked at the station for 3 summers. Her name is Velka Danforth, 22 years old, studying environmental communication at Evergreen State. What she remembers most about the binder is not the audio analysis, or the witness statements, or the compass. It is a sentence from Isolde Pfeiffer's journal, from page 12, written before any of the anomalies began, written in the ordinary handwriting of someone having a normal day on a familiar trail in good weather. Isolde wrote, "Passed a man coming the opposite direction near the first creek. He nodded. I nodded. He had my walk. I thought that was funny. Some people have the same walk. I only thought it was strange later, when I realized I had not heard his footsteps before I saw him." Velka Danforth has read that sentence 11 times. She has not hiked the OZET triangle. She has told herself this is coincidence. She has told herself she is being irrational. She is a person who believes in the value of empirical evidence, who trusts documentation, who has spent 3 summers watching hundreds of people sign the logbook and head down the trail and come back tired and muddy and intact. She has noticed, in those 3 summers, that the motion-activated light above the door turns on at irregular intervals during the night. She has reviewed the camera footage 3 times. She has not submitted a report. She sits at the desk, and she watches people sign the logbook, and she smiles, and she tells them about the tides. She does not tell them about the sound that Karina Holt could not name, or the prints that faced inward, or the man Isolde Pfeiffer passed on the trail, whose footsteps she did not hear until she thought about it later. She does not tell them, because she does not know what she would tell them. She does not tell them, because whatever it is that she would be warning them about does not have a name. She does not tell them, because 3 people who knew that trail better than almost anyone alive walked into it on 3 separate days in the late summer of 2019. And somewhere between the boardwalk and the beach and the cedar and the coast, each of them encountered something that had learned, with a patience and a precision that has no human analog, how to move the way they moved, and breathe the way they breathed, and stand exactly where they would have stood. And only one version of each of them encountered it. The other version continued. For a while. If this account reached you, share it, subscribe, and stay close. Someone has to keep the logbook.